Hello, innovators. I'm Todd Wyant, and welcome to the Bridging the Gap podcast presented by Applied Software Greatech Group. You're invited to join our construction, innovation, and digital transformation adventure with a mission to model the future for this great industry. My guest today is Clay Abernathy. He's a veteran entrepreneur with 28 years of experience in a wide variety of sales and management positions. In 2006, he founded Ideal Institute to provide alternative educational opportunities for students wanting accelerated hands-on training. They just opened up a new trade school in Tucson, Arizona that has quadrupled in the last 6 months. Welcome to the show, Clay.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, I love what you guys are doing and the impact and story. So excited to dig in a little bit deeper in the conversation. But before we get in that, you've had a kind of a wide variety background. How'd you get into the construction industry?
Well, the short story is I started off as a professional clown when I was 10 years old. And the long story is that, I grew up poor and like to make money and continue to find new ways. And I became real successful pretty young, sold those businesses and ended up in real estate. Real estate took me over to construction, and so real estate and construction's been my baby for about 20 years.
Yeah, nice. I have not gotten the clown answer before in hearing somebody's background. I feel like there's a cool story behind that we have to hear.
Well, yeah. It's so I we went to Barnes and Noble back when there was actual bookstores around. I guess there are still a few, but at 10, I found this book that basically taught you how to make balloon animals. And I told my mom I wanted to buy it. She's like, no, we're definitely not buying that. And I'd done like mowing grass for people. And so I had some money at home. I said, I'll buy it, give you the money when we get home. And she got it for me. And I just went to town making these balloon animals. And then I started going to people in the neighborhood and saying, hey, can I do birthday parties for you? And then I was in restaurants and I was doing spring flings and fairs. And then I was trained by a guy out of the circus, Barton Bailey, a circus, and then full-on clown magic, face paint. I did that. And I was at 12 and 13 years old. I was making $85 an hour for birthday parties. But as I got older, I realized I didn't want my kids to be like, yeah, that's my dad over there, Bozo. So I still do it, like grand openings and big things that we have going. I'll bring out the balloons for the kids, hide in the corner, and just make balloon animals for hours, just for funsies.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. My kids would love you. They would just follow you around. You'd be the Pied Piper. That's awesome. So what kind of led you into really founding Ideal Institute and then creating the trade school?
Well, so we have a problem, a societal problem throughout, actually throughout more than just, construction or real estate. And in real estate, I was training real estate agents and I was trying to make a better real estate agent. And one of the things I always knew would make a better real estate agent is construction experience, understanding what's in the walls and what's behind the walls. That's the same thing, behind and inside, almost the same thing. But so was trying to do that, and then I own an insurance company too, and we were training people all throughout all of these companies, and we realized that there was a gap there, and that gap really needed to be fixed, and it was teaching people to show up on time and things that you normally would get in your house. That people come out and be like, you show up on time, you don't call in sick unless you're really sick, all of those things. And so that's where the trade school kind of got started, and so we spent I spent 15 to 17 years trying to do apprenticeships and internship programs and all these work programs and everything to try to solve this problem. And I realized that they just weren't they just didn't work right. They just didn't do what I needed them to do. It's called FAR transfer, basically, in your brain when you're able to do one thing and it associates to something that's extremely that's not a part of it, but is another very important thing. And so we realized that we needed to really dive in, and that's where we redesigned everything and really reopened Ideal Institute as a a general construction school to start that will be an entrepreneur school here. But to get the basics of showing up, hard work, and understanding that there are walls in life and how to work through those walls. So you become successful when you want to quit, but you don't, and then you overcome it, and then it happens again and again and again, and you realize that those mountains you climbed really aren't that big. And then you're excited to climb more mountains, and we were able to do that by building tiny homes and modular homes, and we launched our program in January. And it was the most incredible thing to see. To see 13 people change in 6 months is not the norm. Normally in training people, you see one person change, and you're always constantly looking at, well, why did the rest fail? But we had found a way that all of them became successful in such a short period of time. And then we launched our second semester in July, which was 52 students, and they just finished their first modular tiny house, and that one went out the door 2 days ago, and they're walking taller, and they're just changed human beings. When you can see what you've done and what you've built, it changed your life. And so we found we were able to change lives by building homes and in construction.
Yeah. So what do you think is part of that, of doing something with your hands and having that concrete physical product at the end of the day that makes such a big impact?
Yeah, so I can tell you what makes it unique for me is that being in the service industries and in real estate before I got into construction is, and in insurance, if you could be serving somebody for 5 years and their insurance bill changes $1 and they hate you, and you're like, geez, and then you start to reflect on that, like, am I a terrible human being because I missed $1? And there is something to that, it's very difficult for that aspect, but when you build something, and you do it right, and that's the thing that we teach is, proper foundations, build something concrete and do it right, square it up, build the framing, and we teach them the proper things. When you stand back, no one can take that from you.
Mm.
Nobody can say that that's terrible because it's perfect, and you can stand back and see what you've accomplished. And it changes you. I mean, it also humbles you too, because then you go around and you look at these other buildings. You're like, man, how did they build that? How many nails are in that building? How many screws are, how much work was put into that? And that's what happened to these individuals. And it happens to everyone in construction. When you build something, you stand back and you do a good job. That's the other thing. If you build it and it's crap, well, it doesn't really change you. But these kids do quality work. We tell them it's fine. You can do it right, or you can do it twice. Either way, it will be the same. And I think that's really the thing, is that you start to gain confidence that says, well, if I can do that, and this is where that FAR transfer comes into your brain. If I can do that, then I can do this. And if I can do this, then I can do that. And all of a sudden, the brain changes, and it starts to believe in yourself and hope. It gives you hope in the world, and that's why I think that some of the best people are found in construction, because they have that, they're humble, and they have that belief of that things will get taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think the secret sauce is to finding people to get them excited to come into the trades? Because it's a real hurdle, I think, for construction across the board, is getting fresh blood into the industry.
That is a great question, and that is probably the question that I get asked every time people come and see my school, and they're like, "This is absolutely incredible. How did you get the people?"
Yeah.
And I tell them, I said, "Well, I make construction sexy. That's where what's missing is the statistics are sexy in construction. 10% of all the world's income is spent on construction. 10%. That's there's nothing even compares to that. That means it's stable. It is the largest industry in the world. It is the longest industry. There's from any time we have records of people doing anything, we have records of them building something.
Right.
It is the oldest trade. It is the longest trade. We spend the most in it. But in high school, they say, well, if you don't go to college, you won't be successful. Well, we hit them with the facts. No, That's not it. That's not real. That's not right. And being able to stand back and build something. I mean, if you're a man, being able to stand back and build something and go, look, I built this. I can take care of my family. I can do this. And we got an interesting statistic. 30% of our students are women. And our next class, we have 50% of our students will be women.
Wow.
They can stand back and say, look, I can take care of a home no matter what. I can, I can do anything. And so we're just hitting people with reality. Like, look, we create skills, and you can't, and we know from studies that without tactile habits, you don't create long-term memories. And without creating long-term memories, you can't sit in a class and learn. And so we're just teaching people reality and truth, and they love it. And they do. And that's it. We're just making it sexy again.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things that kind of perplexes me is the misconception that people outside the industry have of construction, and the bad rap that construction has taken of people that go into the industry, even despite it being, as you said, the longest industry and 10% being spent in the industry. Why do you think there is this stigma that is placed on construction that we have to overcome, and we have that extra hurdle to bring people into the industry?
Or, I won't say anything bad here, so I'll just, we have this. I mean, that's. I'll do my best to shorten this question for you. But we have this belief that, I'm going to work really hard and I'm going to retire and live on the beach, and that's a good life, But statistically, we know that after retirement, within 5 years, you're 80% more likely to have Alzheimer's after that. Once your social network comes, you start to lose verbiage, and you actually lose words that you would normally know. And so our society has been trying to sell jobs on, we're going to allow you to work for us and do this stuff that you don't want to do for so many years in hopes that you'll retire and be able to sit on a beach. And that's really bad for our brain. It's really bad for our body. It's really bad. It's bad for us completely. And so to sell that idea, we've had to go into younger ages and say, look, this is what you really want. You don't want to work hard. You don't want to work hard with your hands. That's tough. That's tough work. But statistically, we also know that it's good for your brain. It's good for your body. The likelihood that you'll live longer by using your hands and getting out and building stuff. We also know that it constructs your brain differently, that far transfer happens, and that you actually be more successful in all aspects of your life because you understand what a proper foundation is and what proper scaffolding is and all of these things. And so it's this societal norm that we really have to get over in that manner. And yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that fully answered your question, but sometimes I have to tone it down a little bit on what society has been doing to construction. And I think that's why.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. We've had several guests on tackling this exact same topic. And one of the things that has been kind of a common theme is hitting high schoolers and going into, that sounded bad, talking to high schoolers.
Not physically.
Sometimes you might want to hit them up. Going in and talking to high schoolers about the trades is actually starting too late to have that conversation. That instead we need to go even younger and start talking to middle schoolers and grade students on the impact of construction and the opportunity that exists, and get them excited and show them kind of the practicality of the industry and its impact on society, because you can't have a society without a thriving construction industry. Nothing gets done, nothing gets built. Curious on your thoughts on that, of what's the right age to start really having this conversation.
Yeah, when they're born. One of the reasons this is coming. So I used to go into high schools 15 years ago, and the recession that happened 2008 through 11, and so this problem that we're currently facing right now, we lack 1 million construction workers in the United States alone today, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor. 2 million by 2023, largest class of retiring craftsmen the world has ever seen. So I used to go in, and people thought I was crazy. I said, no, look, we're going to have a problem. We're putting 70% of all high school students directly into college. College graduation rate across the nation is 30%. 30%.
Yeah.
To even pass, you got to get 60% in a college or university. They're failing at their own system, but
It's
yet
pretty sad.
if I was to give them a passing grade, every college, the highest is 41% graduation rate. Every college in the United States is failing at their own grading system. If I did that's a problem. But these statistics have been on the U.S. Census Bureau for 30 years. So the writing was on the wall. And here's the interesting one, is that all of them, everyone who goes to college, on average, they're in debt till they're 40 years, just from that 4 years. Well, the writing on the wall is that creates a crisis. That's a problem. And so I went into high schools and told this, but the teachers just said, "Oh, you're crazy," and they don't think I'm crazy anymore. But we have to be teaching our children at the youngest ages to go out and play, to build stuff, give them stuff. And as parents, I'm a father of 5, and that's tough, right? I want to protect my kids. I don't want them to get hurt, right? But we really actually need them to. We need them to find out what it feels like when you stick something in an electrical socket. Now, granted, I'm not going to teach them to do that, but we've all
They're
done
going to do it
silly
anyway.
things. Yeah, we remember it. But we think being a good parent is protecting them from having these experiences. And really a good parent is allowing them to have these experiences, because we know that classrooms don't work without these long-term memories via tactile learning. And so the earlier we can get this in, meaning touching things, and it can be face painting, it can be putting 2 sticks together, but everything in a young person's life should be touching, tasting, and smelling. Because as we get older, we know that we can transfer those long-term memories and associate it later in a classroom. But what we've done such a bad job, and what's happening with tech, is that we've gotten further and further away, where we think that putting a screen in front of somebody teaches them. Unfortunately, it doesn't. Well, let me rephrase that. It does if you have tactile or long-term memories to associate to. If you do not, and that's all they've learned, well, nothing goes in. It goes right back out. It never hits their long-term memory. It just sticks in their short-term and working memory. So the younger, the better. What does that look like? As soon as you can, and get as many safe experiences. I'm not telling you to go out and throw your kids off cliffs, but safe experiences and new ideas. And that's hard though. As a parent, I know I got 5 kids, my wife and I, it's hard to continually try to find new things to teach your kids. It's so easy just to put them in front of a screen, but that doesn't last. It doesn't make any difference in their brains.
Yeah. Right there with you on that. I have 4 of my own, so I don't meet many people that outdo me in kids. So props to you for 5. I don't know if we're going for 5, but I think we're good right now with 4.
5 is harder than 4 for sure. It does not get easier.
It sounds intimidating to me, but so hats off to you. It's amazing though how the tactical side of things, they're so gravitated to that, and they just want to build and figure out how things are working together, and take it apart and put it back together. At least my kids, that's their favorite thing to do is let's just start building something and exploring it and picking it up and moving it. And we love to encourage that and see their creativity even come out in what they're exploring and building with that.
And that's hard as a parent too, because oftentimes I'm like, crap, I got to clean that mess up.
Right.
Or now I got to go fix that thing that they broke. And a lot of parents don't know how to do that. That's the other thing is that we took shop and home ec, and we took all these things out of classes. And so my generation, we don't know how to do it. And so how do you encourage your kids to do it when we didn't do it? And that's where we really start to get into worrisome problems in our country. And we're seeing it. But the great thing about your brain, your mind, and what you're able to do is, if you're smart enough or just sit there long enough, you'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to come up with a creative solution, get it done.
Yep.
So are you seeing momentum kind of pick up in the mindset of teachers and guidance counselors at schools as well, and changing the perception of, pitting colleges versus trades against each other?
Well, I think some of the great things that happen, like a Mike Rowe, and
Hmm.
that there are now these celebrities and these people who have really been forefront and saying, look, these things don't work. The statistics have been there for a long time, and in fact, if you go to the government studies, they're on the government websites. We know that the education system doesn't necessarily work, and so from 15 to 17 years now, from going in then to now, yeah, we're seeing it because it's forefront, because they know, and we're having so many problems in schools, and people are going, these kids can't sit still. Well, of course they can't sit still. I can't sit still for 8 hours a day listening to somebody who thinks they know what they're doing, and it's not associating to anything in my brain. What nonsense is that? Like,
Right.
I'm putting a 7-year-old or 8-year-old or 10-year-old or 18-year-old kid in a class for 8 hours and telling them to sit still, and then if they can't do it, I tell them they're not going to be successful. They're not going to get a college degree. So guys like me and Mike Rowe and these great people, they're coming out and saying, "You're ridiculous. What do we, how?" It mind boggles me
Yeah.
that we haven't put this together. So I am seeing counselors now when we go in, and it's probably because we know more, and I know more when I go in. It's like, yeah, that don't work. It doesn't work, and then we try to medicate our children to sit still in the classroom. And it's like, no, let them go outside, give them something to do. But the big problem is that we can't quantify that success. So we can't put it on paper to say that we're having a successful education or a successful school, because I need to take a test that has nothing to do with long-term memory. So I think as a society, we're seeing the problems that were created by doing that. And so now we're going, okay, who cares type of deal.
Hmm. What do you see the future kind of looking like over the next couple of years as that pendulum starts to swing back? What does it look like? Where do we find kind of an equilibrium in it?
I mean, but you need both, but you've got it. You can't do the classroom until after you do the tactile. I mean, we know this. I mean, these are studies that have been done for years. And when I go in and I tell people what we're doing, they're like, well, when are you going to get into high school? When are you going to get in middle school? So when are you going to do an elementary? And that's tough because I've got to train a generation first, and then I can go backwards from there.
Hmm.
We're full on crisis mode. People don't really realize it, and I hope I'm wrong. You're right, but statistically showing what happens when you lack 2 million construction workers in a society.
Yeah,
That
it's a big
that
problem.
yeah, when that's what everything relies on. What happens when electricity doesn't get to the hospitals, and what happens when all of the people who have the information pass on without giving the information to somebody else. So we're going to see that over the next couple of years, and I think that crisis is actually waking people up. I mean, when you call a plumber and they're like, yeah, I'll be out in 2 months, or when you're wanting to build a new home and they're like, no, we're not bidding anymore. And you call 10 contractors and no one will even bid for you. I
Hmm.
think that's making people really wake up and going, how fast can we do this? And there are a lot of people trying. The problem is that you've got to start over. And that's that I was trying to do it the same way everybody else was, and it wasn't working. And I was like, fine. And I read something from Musk that says if you can't just change the problem, you got to start over. And that's when we're like, all right, let's start it over and do completely crazy. And then it worked. And so that's going to be the hardest part, is with legislation. You can't just wipe it. We have all this legislation that says that we have to educate and test and do this. So how do we actually get them? And we're going to need somebody much smarter than me in the politician world to say, how do we actually wipe it? But we're going to be in crisis mode here. We're there, but we're going to be in bigger crisis mode where these people in those seats are going to really have to figure it out. So I have hope.
Yeah, I do too, on the hope front. I think construction is, more eyes are coming in and focusing on construction, I think we're at the kind of the precipice of a really cool journey. As I look out over kind of the next decade, I see so much promise and potential here in this industry. But to your point of sometimes you got to just start over again. It's such a important, really difficult skill to know when it's time to kind of burn down a process and start from scratch, because the tendency is just to kind of tinker around the edges and not be too radical in
Yeah.
it, or you come off as being radical, even though it's like this is the most sensible thing to do is to start totally fresh, because what we're doing right now doesn't make any sense all the way down.
Yeah. 100%.
Uh, what do you think the next kind of step is in the trades to kind of bring about that industrialization of the trades?
So that's an exciting question. And the hard part is that I think the humility of the world is in the trades. I really think if you really want to meet the humble people of the world, they're in the trades. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, for
because
sure.
they don't have time for anything else. Look, and we're exhausted and we're emotionally tired, and we're solving problems that people don't know. Um, and I think what happens is eventually you start to get people who just, when I look at the trades, I'm looking at these humble people that they don't have time to fight. And I'm like, well, I'm going to fight for you, right? Let's put on the chopping block. Who's more important, a doctor or an electrician? And I tell people in my school, the worth of a soul is great. You're all great, but let's turn the lights off on the doctor and see how he does, right? Who saved more lives, a plumber or a hospital? And we know that sanitation and water and sewer has saved more lives than anybody else. So it's really the forefront, I think. But we also want to be careful because we love the humility of these tradespeople, so we don't want them to be too crazy. So it's guys like Mike Rowe, and it's guys that are standing up that say, "Stay the humble people. Let us fight the battle."
Yeah.
And I think that helps because the humility is important in life, and that's what makes them so great is because they're humble enough because they got to figure out a new problem. I mean, every building is different, and we need that to stay in the construction. And so I think it's other people seeing the problem coming in and going, I'll fight you. I'll fight this battle for you.
Yeah. I love that. I think it's an awesome call to arms. uh,
Yeah.
I'd love for you to take a moment and kind of explain how Ideal Institute works, because you got a really cool setup there, and you guys are doing some awesome stuff there. So you can just kind of
Yeah.
give us
It's
the sky high view of what you guys got going on.
the quickest way to tell you is that we're training the next generation of craftsmen by building modular and tiny homes. And the long version of what that is that we take students, and so I told you all of these statistics of the things that cause me problems in my own head is that students come in, and we have students of all ages. I have a 16-year-old student. Mom had to, of course, say it was okay to come. And I have a 79-year-old student in my class. Now, these guys are building stuff. They're not sitting in a classroom learning over a screen. They're building. And so they come in and they have a $500 registration fee. So once we accept them, they have to have some skin in the game, because if you don't have skin in the game, you don't really want to learn. So they put their $500 down. Before class starts, they sign a loan with us. And the loan is $14,000. It's what it costs me to put one student through the class. And then we loan them $2,200 worth of tools, good tools, every tool that you could possibly need to be a craftsman in the world. And then we put some rules in place that say we don't give A's, B's, or C's. It's you fail or you pass. And if you have safety violations over so many, if you don't show up, if you're tardy so many times, but you start to get these X's, and if they get over 5 X's, they fail. But they don't. So then they build homes. One class builds 20 to 25 homes in 6 months. One school builds about 320 homes in 6 months.
Wow.
And when they complete this, we sell those homes off to the public, and then we take those funds that we made, and we put majority of them back into the school, and we pay off all of the students' debt. So they graduate. We let them keep the $2,200 worth of tools. They graduate debt-free. In the state of Arizona and most of the other states, they have qualifying licenses. They graduate with a contractor's license. It's not a skyscraper, build a skyscraper, building a home, but it's up to $5,000. Some states it's $10,000. But they'll graduate with that contractor's license, have all of the tools, and they're ready to go, either work for somebody or start their own business. One of the things I always like to tell you is that we graduate 100% of our students. So when we look at if we're passing or failing, we probably won't be able to keep hitting that, but our goal is to stay above 90%. So when we look at post-secondary education, we graduated 100%, and that has something to say with it can be done, and we want people to keep trying to and hold the education to a higher standard.
Yeah, that's huge. Especially, I mean, 100% when you're comparing that to the traditional college way of 30 to at best 41% to those stats that you were referencing earlier. It's a big step up. That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's just such a cool model of really kind of putting into what you were just saying into practice of let's look at it from a different vantage point. How can we make it cool, make it appealing to people to come in and invest their time and be willing participants, but just look at it from a different vantage point on that. How do people find out more information on it if they want to connect or they want to help out in any way?
Yeah, so we do have a website. It's idealtrade.institute. We also have a YouTube channel. One of the unique things I did is I wanted to make these kids successful. And I say kids, a 79-year-old man's not a kid, but he's a kid to me. I say they're kids. Is that I want to make them successful. So we have a videographer, full-time videographer that videos these students working. And it's a virtual resume. So you want to go see what we're doing, you go to our YouTube channel, please subscribe and like, put that in there real quick. Of showing what these kids are doing. So you can go there. We have the ability, we're accepting some investors to come in. We're poised to go across the nation right now. And so we'll go to 512 schools in the next 5 years, all the way across the nation to 50,000 students, which seems like a gigantic number. But when you divide it by 50 in the cities, and it's about 100 to 500 students per city. It doesn't dent the million construction worker problem that we have, but it does help. And so you can.
But it makes an impact.
It does, and you change one life, and hopefully he can change another life, and it does. So those are the ways you can find us for sure.
Awesome. So one of our kind of core themes on the show is around innovation. What does innovation mean to you?
So we're disruptors in 3 industries. Because we build modular homes, our homes are actually structurally more sound than what I've developed over the last 20 years. And they're built by students. The way we attach them to the ground, they're considered single-family residences. And we're an innovator in the construction industry. And the neat thing is that we take these old craftsmen, and they're our teachers, guys that are retiring. We say, hey, look, don't retire, you'll die. Come transfer this information. And they love it, because their bodies are not working as well as they should, but they got so much information. So what we're able to do is create things that people have never seen before, because we get this young generation that's got these tech abilities that these old generations don't know. And I think that's why we've lost it, is that, if you wanted to talk to a guy in their 60s and 70s that knows how to build a home, you got to go talk to him, right? But he's rough around the edges, you could say. And this next generation, if they want to talk to you, they send you an emoji, and what do you do?
You're talking different languages.
it's like Spanish and Greek, and so. But what we've done at the school is just absolutely amazing. Is that we've been able to speak the same language, a generational gap that we've never seen because of innovation, right? And if we don't figure that out, because we're growing so fast in innovation in tech, we will outgrow the foundation of what builds all this. All of this tech, everything we're doing is built by somebody's hands. And some people say, one day we'll be able to build this house with a robot, but who builds the robot? It all comes down to craftsmen. And so what we've done is when we have a think tank of so many brains together, we're excited about innovating the next exciting things in construction because of that. And so that's that. Already we've already got patents coming out from the school just from what we've done in 8 months on this new and that's just the start, because we're able to innovate and think because we are doing so many different things, where normally at one company would just they would do this and then another company would do that. And so because we're linked up, it's actually, we're so far ahead in the real estate and the construction world that we're very excited for the future of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So final question for you. If I could give you all power and you could snap your fingers and innovate one thing in construction, what would you choose to innovate?
Well, it would be the education, right? Because everything comes from that. If I could snap my fingers and make the perfect thing, it would be that I could transfer the information from the greatest minds in construction to the generation of 18 to 20-year-olds. And I could do it at the snap of a finger, where they could matrix it, essentially, where they could see that, and then they could understand the joy of building for 50 years. I mean, these craftsmen that are older, they drive around town, they built everything. I mean, you drive around, they're like, I built that, I built that, I built that, I built that. But you can only have that joy by doing it over and over again. So if I could fix one innovation, that would be it. Transfer that information to the younger generation so they can see the happiness and joy that comes from it too.
Yeah, that knowledge transfer is going to be a critical part to the potential of construction that we were talking about over for the next well into the future. That's a huge part. So it would be an awesome innovation.
You guys figure that one out for me. That would be cool. I don't think
well, we'll get on it. Well, Clay, thanks so much for taking the time and sharing your passion for the trades. This was great. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Well, me, but there's a whole team behind me you just can't see. So I'll say us, but thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a team behind us all. So it comes in handy.
Yeah.